The story begins with the Demon Lord's Undying Brigade, as their commander Ike orders them to invade the city of Arsenum. His subordinate Jiren tells him everything's going well, and they're able to break through the gates, slaughtering everyone in the city. A human commander watches the carnage as Ike approaches him, telling him to surrender. But he refuses, and he charges in, so Ike attacks him with a magic blast, which knocks him out. Jiren arrives, but Ike orders him to help the commander recover and do the same for the injured human soldiers. We cut to Ike's superior Saikyou as she watches his every move, and she can't believe he was able to capture Arsenum in 1 week, realizing he has potential. He uses barrier magic, preventing his minions from entering the room, and he notes that the battle is over, but he feels guilty for hurting the people, thinking he'll never get used to the bloodshed. We learn that he's actually human, and he was raised by a legendary mage named Romberg, who knew everything about ancient civilization. He shared his knowledge with Ike, and before he passed away, he told him never to speak of the ancient civilization, because it could lead to a disaster. Ike recalls that Romberg advised him to keep his identity a secret, because the Demon Lord will punish him if he discovers the truth. But as Ike continues to ponder, he sees a maid hiding, so she panics, begging him to spare her life, but she ends up hitting her head, and she loses consciousness. He realizes that his identity has been exposed, but Jiren suddenly calls him, and he asks Ike why he's sparing the humans, because the demons are used to slaughtering everyone. But he reminds Jiren that Arsenum is a trading city, so he thinks he can use the humans by imposing taxes as they continue to make profit. He meets the humans, and one of them asks him about their taxes, so he explains that they can pay him the amount they've always been paying. They're happy to hear this, but he warns them that they will be punished if they try to resist the Demon Lord's army. He suddenly gets teleported away, and he finds himself in a dark room where he gets attacked by a golem. So he falls back, realizing he has been summoned by Saikyou, but he's upset because she promised not to summon him without warning. He uses his slashing spell, destroying the golem in a single hit, and she tells him he has gotten stronger, saying she was confident in the golem she made. We learn that she's the only demon who knows his secret, but he asks her why she summoned him, thinking she wants to know what happened at Arsenum. But she explains that she already knows everything, and she reveals that the Demon Lord wants to see him, because he was able to conquer Arsenum in 1 week, so she takes him to the Demon Lord's castle. We return to the maid, as she tries to leave, but she realizes that the room is surrounded by a barrier. She sees a note from Ike, who tells her to wait for him to return, and she sees food on the table, so she tastes it, and finds it delicious, so she starts devouring it. Ike is about to enter the Demon Lord's castle, but he sees the guards at the entrance, realizing he's going to get checked. So he becomes nervous, thinking they will ask him to remove his mask, but Saikyou covers him with demonic energy, and one of the guards sees it, thinking he's amazing. The guard recognizes him as the grandson of Romberg, and she tells everyone not to keep the Demon Lord waiting. So the guard shows them around the castle, as Ike notes that the hallway is extremely long, and he asks Saikyou if they're close to the audience chamber. So she tells him they're almost there, thinking he's jealous, because she doesn't need to walk, and he denies this, but we learn that it's true, because he always wanted to master the flight spell. But he can only use it to jump high, and he can't use it to levitate like she does. They reach the audience chamber, but she tells him to wait for her to return, because she needs to talk to the others first. While waiting, he thinks about the Demon Lord, knowing the demons were losing the war against humanity before he came into power. But when he ascended to the throne, he was able to score a decisive victory, which turned the tides of battle. He's known as the strongest among the demons, but he has a bad reputation because he kills anyone he deems incompetent. But as soon as he sees value in his minions, he puts them to good use, and this is how he was able to revolutionize his army. Saikyou tells him to enter, and he kneels before the Demon Lord, who welcomes him to the castle, telling him to raise his head. So he obeys the command, but he can't believe that the Demon Lord is actually a girl. She's impressed that he was able to conquer Arsenum in 1 week, and he tells her Saikyou deserves all the credit, but she mentions that his humility makes him sound like a human. Saikyou tells her he's the grandson of Romberg, and she thinks this explains everything, as she mentions that he spared the humans in the city. So he thinks he's screwed up, thinking he should have killed the human commander so that she wouldn't suspect him. but he defends his actions, saying terror doesn't work on humans, and he mentions that their productivity tends to suffer when their leader is executed. So he decided not to kill them, thinking he did the right thing for his army because they can still use the humans. She asks him if this is Romberg's opinion, and he confirms this, but he notes that she seems to know about ancient civilization, thinking she used this knowledge to revolutionize her army. She tells him he's nothing like the other demons, saying she wants to see his face behind the mask, but she heads out, telling him she expects much from him. After she leaves, he freaks out, wondering how she knew he was wearing a mask, but Saikyou tells him to be grateful that she didn't discover his secret, saying he's been given a new task. Ike returns to Arsenum, and he sees the maid sleeping, so he wakes her up, and she begs him not to hurt her, saying she'll do anything for him. So he promises not to kill her, and he asks for her name, so she tells him it's Sadie. He explains that he can't let her go, because she knows he's a human, but she promises to keep it a secret, so he tells her to serve as his maid, and she thanks him for sparing her life. The next day, they head to the city of Avelias, as Jiren congratulates Ike for becoming its new ruler. We learn that Saikyou told him about his new task, telling him his mission is to protect the city and double its tax revenue. But he knows this is going to be tough, because it's on the front line, so the humans could attack at any time. He realizes that everything in the city has been destroyed, because Saikyou rained fire when she captured it. He orders Jiren to repair the walls, but he mentions that it will take 6 months, and Ike isn't happy to hear this, knowing they're doomed if the humans attack them before the walls are repaired. So he tells Jiren to finish it in 1 month, saying he will get the humans to help them. After that, we see the humans working with the demons, and Jiren can't believe this, because this has never happened before. He notes that Ike is full of surprises, thinking he's a genius, because everyone's happy with his arrangement. He sees a group of orcs struggling to lift a boulder, so he tells them to step away, and he destroys it with his spell. Jiren thinks he has the potential to become the next demon lord, so he decides to stay with him, thinking it would be a mistake to leave him. We see an army of demons attacking a city, as the mages try to stop them, but they press on, as a demon launches a boulder, destroying the wall. They're able to enter the city, and they start killing the soldiers, as the demon lord receives a report that the war with Rosaria is going well, but they're forming an alliance with their neighbors to turn the tables. So she thinks the fight is about to get interesting, and she decides to let Ike handle it. We meet the leader of Rosaria, Galros, as he summons Ali, the commander of the White Knights. He orders her to retake Avelias, saying they can't let the other nations take advantage of them, and she accepts the mission. Meanwhile, we see a man challenging everyone to find a ball, as he hides it under one of his cups. Sadie accepts the challenge, but he asks her how much she's willing to bet, and she mentions that she's broke. So he tells her she can't play, but he realizes she has a great body, so he tells her she can bet something else. He's about to open the cup she chose, but a gust of wind lifts all of his cups, and everyone realizes he's cheating, because the ball is nowhere to be found. So they beat him up, and Ike asks her what she was doing, telling her to stay by his side. So she apologizes for her behavior, saying she got too excited, and she realizes he isn't disguised as a demon. So he explains that he's trying to blend in, reminding her that their goal is to scout the enemy. They see a group of soldiers in the city, as he realizes that the story about the Alliance of Kings is true, but she doesn't understand what's happening, so she asks him what's going on. He explains that the humans have an ancient alliance, where the countries join forces to deal with a threat, and they have only done this 3 times, but each time the alliance was formed, they were able to defeat the demon lord. So Sadie is worried, thinking the demons are going to lose, but he reminds her she's human, so she's going to be fine even if this happens. But she explains that she's just a slave to the humans, and they won't treat her well if he abandons her, so he tells her not to worry, because the demons won't lose the war. They're suddenly interrupted by the man who cheated, and he knows that Ike was the one who exposed him, so he threatens to take everything from him. But Ike realizes nobody's watching them, and he casts a spell, surrounding the man with ice. He tells the man to answer his questions, but he refuses to cooperate, so Ike stabs him, and he realizes that Ike is serious, so he agrees to do it. Ike asks him about the soldiers in the town, and he reveals that they've formed the Alliance of Kings to fight the demons. But he mentions that Rosaria wants to strike a decisive blow against the Demon Lord's army before the Alliance makes a move. Ike realizes Rosaria is doing this to win glory, so that the other nations in the alliance will look up to them, but he knows their reputation is going to suffer if they fail. He asks the man about their target, so he reveals that it's Avelia's, because it's the most vulnerable city on the front line, and Ike heads out, as the man begs him to remove the ice shards. Ike returns to Avelia's, where a girl named Lilith approaches him, asking him where he's been. So he explains that he was scouting Rosaria, but she asks him about Sadie, who introduces herself as his maid. But Lilith thinks she's too ugly to be his maid, telling him to accept her as his maid instead. But Sadie tells him he's tired, saying she was the one chosen to be his maid, and they start fighting over him. Later that day, the White Knights reach Avelia's, thinking it's poorly guarded, and Ali orders her men to fire the catapults. But a horde of skeletons suddenly appear as the demons attack them from behind, catching them by surprise. Ali realizes they're about to get wiped out, so she orders everyone to retreat, and Ike finds her impressive, thinking she made the right call. But we see an archer behind him, and he ends up getting shot, and he collapses, so Jiren calls for help. That evening, Galros learns about Ali's defeat, thinking it's unacceptable, so he orders the messenger to arrest her. But the messenger asks him if he's sure, reminding him that she's one of the best generals in Rosaria, but he doesn't care, thinking she needs to take responsibility for her actions. When Ike wakes up, he sees Saphiro beside him, so he becomes confused, asking her what happened. So she explains that he got shot, but she has already healed his wounds, and he thanks her for saving his life. But she warns him that the Demon Lord might find him suspicious, because he didn't kill a single human when the White Knights attacked them. But he explains that he wants humans and demons to coexist, and she tells him he needs to rest, because he still hasn't fully recovered, and she teleports away. He sees the arrow that hit him, and he wonders who tried to kill him, but there's a knock at his door, so he wears his disguise. Lilith and Sadie join him, but Lilith tells Sadie to stay away, telling her she can't be with him because she's just a human. So they start fighting over him again, but Lilith gets thrown outside as Jiren arrives. Ike asks him about Ali, so he reveals that she was imprisoned because she failed to retake Avelia's. Ike decides to pay her a visit, but Lilith joins him, telling him it's too dangerous to go alone. He tells her he just wants to talk to Ali, saying he doesn't need help, but she explains that she wants to spend time with him, so he tells her to keep a low profile. They see soldiers guarding the gate, and he tells her they should sneak past them, but she beats them up, telling him his problem has been solved. They enter the prison, realizing it's bigger than they thought, so it will take time to find Ali. But Lilith knocks a guard out, and she steals his keys, saying she was able to interrogate him, and he told her Ali is on the top floor. The guards see them, so she tells him she will take care of them, and he orders her to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. But he hears their bones breaking, and he sees one of them asking for help, but he decides to ignore them. He reaches Ali's cell, but he wonders where she is, because the room appears to be empty. She suddenly attacks him, trying to stab him, but he knocks her down, and she wonders what he wants. So he tells her he just wants to ask her a question, asking her if she sent an assassin to kill him. But she wonders if he's really a demon, and he sees the guards approaching, as she suddenly threatens him, asking him if he's actually a human. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.